everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone extends my way. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please help support the message by liking, sharing, subscribing, and hyping the video. Gracias. Well, everyone, today I'm gonna take you on a little trip that I personally witnessed, right, for quite a few years, which were the personal struggles of a camarada. You know, I stated before when the pili you're under falls, you're more than likely to fall with them. It's real rare that you maintain relevant and you maintain per se in good status, right? But there is them cases, you know, some maybe for work, maybe others for their wiggle or reach with camaradas, some as this homie, and one with family and his knowledge. But anyways, this one's gonna circle around. Yeah, we'll say the Pili or once Pili, uh, Smiley from Corona, Riverside. I first heard of Smiley, and since I was in reception, because he was close to Raul, right? I don't know if it's just the same neighborhood or Raul was some type of family member to him, but they were close. They had to be family, because Raul was unhappy on Smiley's decisions, and he didn't agree with them, but regardless, he was there supporting, so it had to be a bloodline, right? Of course, I always been that I do things a lot with respect. If you're telling me something, I might sound maybe dumb, ignorant at times, like, yeah, Simon, but I'm paying attention. I'm just not going to go out and ask you more than what you're wishing to tell me. This was the case, Raul's telling me about him, and I wanted to ask if it was his family member, but at the same time, I didn't want to cross that line. But, anyways, Raul was upset with him because he was saying that he was a good individual. Mind wise, he knew how to work, he knew how to maintain between the lines, he knew how to maintain relevant, how to bring to the table, all the good things you hear about a solid camarada. Keep in mind, this is 97 when I'm hearing this, right? And I'm just starting off my walk in CDC, you could say. But like I said before, Raul was putting me up on game on certain individuals, right? But I guess Smiley, he was Cuate's boy from La Rana. He was real close to Cuate, and that's where Raul wasn't happy with. Mainly because, well, everybody knows Cuate's history, right? Liar, political, you know, painted everything to his way to move on the next individual, regardless of his status, his whatever. It was just Cuate, right? And that's why he didn't like that Smiley was falling underneath Cuate. And of course, Billy's have been around probably foreseeing that Cuate was going to be through eventually, right? Due to his doings. And, anyways, throughout this, you know, uh, I guess he got sponsored Smiley into the M by Jaco and Stomp Valencia. He had his two padrinos, and the famous boxer didn't allow it to happen. Under whatever reasons, they were his reasons. I couldn't really tell you, right? And I know I say it, I don't unagree with the way he ended up, whatever. But the one thing you can't take from the individual, he was there, right? He held power, But boxer's always been boxer. He always wants to be the más chingón. But at least till 2002, you can't take that from him, right? And anyways, getting back to Smiley, when Boxer sat him down, basically it was, wait, you ain't ready. We'll end up pushing for you again here soon. I, as you guys know, within time, Boxer would end up debriefing and doing his thing, and Guate was already definitely out the picture, right? Not to be considered a camarada, and that alone should have brought some headaches to Smiley. I know at the time for a fact there was numerous appeals that pushed for him. At this time, besides, hey, Marceli sends his saludos. Just want you to know he's Chino from Santa Rosa. Keep him in mind in case that type of thing. Again, I was Raul's kids per se, right? And that was it though. We went. Time passed, right? The next time I heard about Smiley, it was when I was in Ironwood. In Ironwood, there was another push for him again by Stomp and Yaku from Asusa, and everything was to be turned out good. And the black sheep of it again was Terco. Terco about that issue that he didn't know if he would be M material because he had the school in Acuate, right? There was have a lot more to be put out there before that decision could be made. Them type of things. But keep in mind, since 1997, the homie was already validated back there, right? In the shoe. I don't know how much before that, but at least at that point forward, he was validated, holding it tough. And anyways, time will circle. And the next push I heard of him was when I was in Corcoran. In Corcoran shoe, as you guys know, Yako was there. Stomp had already checked in backwards, and there was headaches. Keep in mind, speaking through the surface of this. When Cuate walked away, of course, he had to face not only repercussions for being Cuate's boy, but he had to put on the table what he was relevant to stay in the program, right? Not get pushed out, because you got to remember Cuate was disliked by many. And the second time he got put up, like I mentioned in Corcoran, Stump wasn't around no more. And basically, the funny part was T, right? The one that said Chales, one of the Castellanos was pushing for him. So again, he got put up in the shelf, but he maintained solid right in the program. So he's back to setting down, and issues uprose. Of course, not only was he Cuate's boy, But Stomp, that was pushing Cuates movement as well, had a real liking to him. So, that brought a lot of headaches towards him too, that he had to clear up, to the people he did it, to how he did it. That was his business. I was still in Corcoran shoe, right? And when I hit Pelican Bay, of course, you get to a spot, you start wanting to meet the good people that you hear of, right? But I wasn't that dumb of an individual that, I asked for him, but not in the sense like, hey, where's the Pili? Or where's this? Because I knew his membership was in and out, in and out, in and out, and usually when that happens, you to sit down, period, right? And more than likely, you're going to get removed. But again, the homie was validated, and once I hit Pelican Bay, he was considered the wizard of the Title 15 or the law library. He was real good when it came to law. Appeals, 602s, whatever, whatever it meant. You know, that's how I believe he maintained relevant. Because he was real helpful when it came to that type of push. And I was already up there in 2015 when I left to the Feds. Smiley was definitely one of the biggest pushers when it came to the lawsuit that would eventually get, the camaradas and the pilis out the shoe, right? And that's mainly what I wanted to focus on. I don't know if the homie got tired or what, but at the time, 2012, 13, he was helping the Ranfla. We're not talking about, canicas or like other fools that think they're moving and it's just papeles, right? We're talking about ladrillos and feria, real feria, from the streets. And, you know, he had just settled down after the power struggle of Cisco and Yaku locking it up. Because for many years he was also pushed by Yaku, right? So for those that say, nah, I don't have a ricochet, it definitely does, right? Either the pili you're out there, or if you have a padrino that pushes for you, oh, definitely you're going to feel the effects. Remember, I said it before, if you get made and you mess up, there's not going to be an effect towards the pili that made you. But if the pili that makes you messes up, it's going to reflect on you. Facts. Anyways, he pushed through that. So by this time, it's been 3 times he's been put up. And he's not only doing the legal work for a lot of pilis, a lot of people, right? Because again, he was good at it. One of the best, I definitely could say, in Pelican Bay. Corcoran, South from Torres, and Pelican Bay. I got to give it to Smiley, right, from Corona. I never got around to ask my doubt, right, if he was family of Raul. When I met him through Amapil, it was okay. You're my homeboy's kid per se, right? Robert Alvarez, Chino from SR, and I told him, yeah. So we had an open communication, and again, I was with T from Kukan, T from Bassett, And more than anything, I knew what he was moving on the streets, right? And this is to answer those that ask me, have I met camaradas that oversmart the M? And this is one of them cases. You see the homie put up with straight with the BS, right? They had with him one day being a carnal, the next day your beetle were clipping your wings, sit down and wait, and then go through the headaches of other peelies wanting to remove you because you were under so and so sponsor you. There's so many things to it that it fell short just to say, I got put up, but it got stopped. For one, they take you off the program. So you gotta basically be in the outskirts looking in as a nobody till you figure things out. The homie held tough through it. You know, when they put you off the program, I guarantee you the number one thought that goes through your head is just hold tough. You're requested to go out to court with them, go out, they're gonna whack you. Just wait for it. You're expected to get hit straight up. You know, I went through something similar from Corcoran when I hit Pelican Bay, and it was just wait and see when it happens, right? Keep pushing. But anyways, I don't want to make this one too long, because I'm gonna be heading out here to the hospital. So if you don't hear from me for a couple days, that's the reason why, right? But anyways, the homie was holding so much, they would eventually get kicked out the shoe, as you guys know. And I don't know, after 2016, I believe I heard I was in the feds, but it was 2, 3 months afterwards, right? Of the shoe kick out, when he got kicked out more than anything. And he paroled. At all this time, I'm thinking he's holding tough, pushing, because he was a lifer, right? But nah, he had a date this whole time, and he just didn't have it in him to go out sideways and debrief. There's, sorry I say it like this, but there's scary individuals that they use any excuse to go through the debriefing program. And then you have those solid individuals that, regardless what happens, they're going to hold it tough. And if it means go out, get whacked, come back in, heal, go out and get re whacked to see if you can fix your stuff, they're going to do it. You know, at least this was the homie mentality. And if it wouldn't have went down my angle like that, believe me, that would have been my angle too. Because, well, at least that snitching part goes real heavy with me, all the way from my family, from my roots, right? And I don't believe in it, not 1 cent, right? That's meant to play your last card of winning out. Something you started and you didn't have them set to finish. But anyways, the homie got out. He was still controlling a lot of movement in the IE when it came to picking up feria, picking up pelotas, ladrillos, directing them to different pilis, from the IE Ramfla. And then one time he picked up chunk of feria, chunk of material. He wrote it on a bill. It's what really, we're in the feds and it was laughable, right? because his story was known how they played up and down with him, and he basically stated, for everything I gave and everything I survived through, it's just because of you guys' disagreements and dislikes of each other. You guys were playing with me like a doll, up and down. Eres, no eres, eres, no eres. We're gonna book you. You're good. So I'm done with you. I'm taking what I think I deserve for what I serve. Till this day, the homie just went MIA. He took, I don't even want to put a price or nothing. That's not important. But he did the organization. I don't know how a lot of you are going to see it, like he was in the right, he was in the wrong. Me personally, I think the whole situation was wrong. You know, how many peelies are still to this day made that they're dead weight, are not doing nothing, haven't done anything, but they only get pushed by individuals to stock up their number in the boat and nothing happens. But when a good camarada deserves it, in reality it pounds fear into them. I'm just keeping it honest. Smiley was a smart individual, knew how to cruise. Like I said, he might not have direct lines, right? You can't take from the power Cuate had at one point. Yaco, Stomp, and at the end he was helping Toro, if he would have gone to the feds, he would have gone and made, you know. But at all times there was a subi bajas with him. He ended up taking a good chunk to survive somewhere else and just basically said, I te ves, you know, and he's one of the three I seen in this. I already spoke about Jimmy from OC. Smiley is the next one I seen did this, right? Again, we're not speaking about marbles, chicles. Let's just say the worth of 60, 80 of them things, and about 50, 60 of them actual things. And he left, said, one for the many gone, I got done and had to go through. And that's the way it works. Again, the end look on this is you could go through your whole career doing something right for a Billy. It's not gonna mean nothing for the next Billy. Every Billy always gonna say you don't work for me in the open. You're for the organization. But when it comes to ricochet on negative, or you were under so and so, you were supporting so and so, you were close to so and so, you either get whacked or go through the struggles. Somebody made a comment that somebody enlightened me with, and boy, you sure are wet behind the ears. You really gotta learn first and foremost the levels. Second of all, you need to hear, but really hear, not just speak. You know, you could go and do everything right, always. It's not gonna mean nothing, especially now that there are different ones in every yard. One Pili ain't gonna care what you did for another Pili. What have you done for him? It's exactly what you're gonna be told. And if he feels disrespected, whack him, remove him. So again, don't put You could say your life in the hands of someone that in reality you could call bipolar, right? I call it tecatos. This comment also said, because I call them tecatos, homeboy learned from Dolphin and a tecato. I've been around pillies when themselves say they're tecatos, so get a little bit clecha. But anyways, that's what I wanted to touch about Smiley. He went through the struggles bad for many years. You could say almost the whole time I was busted. But at the end of the day, he clipped him. He's gone, and as much as people want to wait that much power on them, in reality, it's just the fame that stayed from the old days. But again, don't take my word for it. Just be smart, pay attention. Most importantly, if you're representing your homies, your neighborhood, and you have to go down that road, do it to the fullest. But if you have an opportunity to stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones, take it. That should always be the end goal. Saludos always.